Good morning, everyone. Thought I'd get to work on this little CV again. It's coming along good, I think. As in function-wise, I think it will work out pretty good. I have a nice big landing space on top, some basic protection, hanger that's big enough to get most workshop items in it. Whether that's a SV or a tank or HV of some kind. Um, So what's left is a lot of texturing and some coloring on the body, and then of course the interior needs to be done up. But I wanted to get trucking on this, so I think I'll go with the texturing for now. And as doing that, see if there's any potential on doing little body tricks and mods and stuff. In fact, there's one thing I've already noticed, that this little wedge thing over here isn't exactly cool. So I think that is the first thing I want to do is just replace this block. Not a big deal. Um, and yeah, that's done. Basically, it didn't match right here, and it had that little lip there, but I think I forgot to replace this originally. Alright, so on texturing and coloring, last time started a bit with the sides here, but I want to stretch that out. I was thinking about a color scheme, and what I'm thinking about doing is having it dark, or this dark gray strip, and follow that along here, and then have it go up the front um, to give it an interesting body line, and then also probably have this area here dark, and then this in between area kind of your the lighter color, similar to what's going on over there. Well, to start with, though, gotta get a lot of textures in place, and this is fairly boring and takes a little bit of time, but this isn't too big of a build at all, so I don't expect it to be that bad. Now, different blocks texture different ways, and I use different textures for different surfaces. My base texture I typically use is always this metal here, or has been, and then of course I blot out most of the lines with the texture right next to it. But sometimes when you get to these like half surfaces that are exposed, like right over here, there's some other textures that can work and give you kind of a new texture, or like part of that texture you see that lines up. Like for instance, on these half blocks here, this particular grate works kind of neat because you just see the center portion of it, so it's almost like a different texture. Um, that is one option. Of course, these lights are very handy. I use them quite a lot, um, and they also texture really nice on that size texture. Basically, anything that goes down the center, like from here to here, will look good with those side lines there. And there's a lot of options you could do. I use these occasionally, that like these floor tiles, usually to put in like caution signs. So I'll make them darker, and then I'll put like the caution decal over them. Um, some textures though, the ones that aren't centered, like this one, they don't line up very well. So it's a lot of playing around. This texture is also very cool, but it's picky because a lot of the times I don't want to use it. Like here, I don't. The lines just do not line up very well or anything like that. So I typically will not use that on this. But for now, we'll just keep it with a couple lights and that. And let me just hit a bunch of other surfaces in the area. This is also one of my go-to textures here, simply because of the shape. It's fairly smooth. It doesn't stick out so bad. It blends well, and it's got a nice shape that lines up to both half-size and full-size blocks. It's not because I want everything to look like a cargo container or something, but it's just on size. Alright, so let's hit this whole bottom surface here. And I'm going to try something a little bit different. I'm going to first hit it with this texture and take a good look at that and try to figure out if there's some areas that line up and look decent and other areas might not. So that's a bit too repetitive there. So I'm going to blank some of that out. Probably a lot of these angled strips in there. Trying to give it a little contrast but not go overboard with it. And a lot of times too, when I first texture things, it will be more grungy looking. I'll have more textures in place, and then later on I start smoothing it out and removing a lot of them. But so much of it is about breaking up the surface. But color is a nice way to do that as well. So now one of the problem areas to always texture, and I'm sure a lot of you have seen this before, are these angle slopes here. You can lay some textures on there, but typically they do not look very good with alignment and things like that. So my method is I first hit the whole area and then start getting rid of stuff, like areas that just don't line up, which is most of it, quite frankly. And on these tiny little corner pieces, I have also found that this particular texture here turned sideways kind of gives you a nice little line there. So it's a cheat. Now, one way to break up these big solid areas is to use some kind of straight line texture. Sometimes you can get a little bit more detail in the end with it. So like this here, or this, for instance, say we wanted like a little line here, we could do that. And I don't think I have that in the right spot, but how about there? And it's just a little bit of breakup and it lines up. Alright, so on this area here, I think I'm just also going to go with a very simple and easy to place texture. I wish there were more like this. I mean, I really do. It comes in handy for so many situations. Now in the windows, you can actually texture the windows. On older builds I didn't do that. I usually kept them just flat, but found that if you hit some areas, like maybe I want something a little bit different in the center here, or actually this texture kind of works neat for that. So you can get a little bit of a breakup, and I'm just doing it on the center block of the windows, so there's like, I don't know, a little bit something more to look at there. Let's see, how about this piece here too? These little thin blocks align with a couple things quite nicely. I found 3 textures to actually work well. There's a lot more than that actually. There's this, which I like. I think that looks pretty good. But sometimes I try not to do the same thing over the whole area, so it's like I got some of that and then some of this. And then to cap that off, maybe something like this turned that way so it looks more like it's its own part and gives you those little lines on the side. And then maybe see what luck you get with placing one of these textures. Just to break it up a little bit more. Now, since this thing was filled with the, or completely textured first with the just the flat texture, it makes it a little bit easier. as you don't have to replace that again. And most of the ship actually ends up being that texture in the end. This is just a thing to try to get it a little bit more detailed. And very typical process that I do. But this is kind of stock here, and I do not like that. That is one of the reasons why I try to figure out a way to not have that look in the first place. Sometimes I turn the textures a little bit too, so you can get kind of something that looks angled properly here and there. But still not really liking on that much. But it's something. It's something better than being totally flat. Of course, I do try to break up all that stuff with some vents or lights or something else in places, like a little vent over the thruster. Fortunately, these corner pieces, I can't find a texture to make them look good anymore. Alright, and sometimes you can get bold and add like a vent somewhere. I could do that. Maybe I'll leave that. I don't know. Alright, so coloring. Now that this is mostly textured, I'm just going to do fill the whole block now so it a little easier, and it gets the other side better in symmetry too. So we wanted the bottom black. The kind of neat part is on these big open angles like that, I found the thing that probably looks the best overall is being able to color it nicely and form a nice sharp line there, which really breaks those areas up. One of the last things I end up doing too is a lot of these textures will change again a little bit, and I'll take a look at it at night and see where I've got texture lights. If they're too dense in one area, I'll take some out. If there's not enough in an area, I'll put some in. And I just try to get those little bit of light, you know, try not to overdo it or underdo it, but just so there's that neat little texture lights to look at, especially at night. Now I'm just thinking I probably should hit this line then too. The only side effect is I try to avoid having the dark color that I'm using as a texture light, but it's not that dark where you can still see them. I just, it's kind of a weird effect you get out of that. So yeah, now I got that kind of straight line. All right. Um, I'm going to try something else here though. I'm going to just try a different color yet. So just go with like a gray and see how that looks in comparison. Another big thing too is the direction of your blocks. Like this one here, of course I want this to be gray on the top, but I want this to be black on the bottom. So the block isn't turned the right direction for that right now, so I will rotate it around. And this also does not translate in symmetry, so you have to remember to get the other side as well. And I don't like to see lines that don't go anywhere like what's here, so I'm going to either blot that texture out or replace it with something like that. That works pretty good. Yeah, another bonus with Alpha 10 is every time you used to texture something, it would reset the color to default, and it no longer does that. So that is cool. That is a time saver again. Start to get there. Alright. Let's get this top area set up here. And another texture that kind of works neat for these thin blocks is this. It doesn't fit perfectly, but from a distance and with some side blocks or texturing the side areas next to it with something like that, it fits pretty decently. But kind of also look in there, and I'm trying to keep features lined up. Like actually, I would want to be like this, so it matches the same kind of lip on the bottom. Oops. Alright, so another thing, should these little lips here, I think they should be different color too, to set them off a little bit more. Again, my texture lights kind of screw up that way, so I probably shouldn't have done that anyway, but alright, so other tricks with the thin blocks has to do with decals. And like this double line here over a flat thin block. Unfortunately, it doesn't work on the angles. Wish the UVs would line up the same way that way. If you put this on there, you'll get this like double little thin white line, which I think is kind of cool. It's subtle, but unfortunately you can't do it on the angled version. It gives you kind of like that little bit of a white line there. Anything and everything to try to get more detail, to a build. So you can also texture the thrusters, but I don't think I'm going to on this one. I don't know if I like this chunk over here yet, and I don't really like where it meets up here yet, or necessarily the front of the ship that much. Things I'm keeping an eye on. So translating to the other side of the ship, it's going to be all broken, and these textures aren't going to be aligned correctly. So what I would recommend, and what I've been doing, is after you put that base coat of textures on, don't bother to fix them until you're out of symmetry mode. So that kind of covers at least the base layer on the sides. Not super pretty yet, but I think it'll get there. And let's try the line over here. Maybe on the inside as well. Notice these round blocks do texture better, though. They were very finicky at where you were positioned. They seem to improved on that. I like the idea of the vent, but unfortunately it doesn't line up to look very good. So that may or may not stay that way yet. I don't know. And should this particular thruster match and be also dark? Yeah, I think so. Okay. Let's jump up to the top of the ship for a little bit. Got a nice space for a landing pad. And I think I want to get that in place. So let's try to come up with the area that the landing pad is going to be at. I'll probably do my normal scheme, which I like to use this with a texture over it because you get like some, it lights up at night then, and that is kind of a cool effect. With this, it looks like the landing pad could go right out to the edge. So, tell you what, I'm trying to come up with a pattern so these are spaced out evenly. I used to do them every other block, but I kind of like to spread them out a little more than that to 2 to 3 blocks now. And then use something different for the corners, something square. Not going to line up very good on the back, though. That's a lot of room there. Don't really want to waste it. But my only option would be to move this line back another row, keep it more open on the sides. Huh. Maybe I'll do that. Want to get it right the first time, so then everything else just fits together easier. So again, moving these sucks. So I guess it's thin there, and alright. For now, So yeah, now that'll line up much better to the back of the ship. I think it's a fair trade-off. As long as they're all even. Okay, so the center area. For exteriors, I've been using this particular, I think it's actually a carpet, but it has a nice kind of abrasive concrete feel to it, especially colored right. So it works out pretty good. Okay, so that is a little flat and boring now. And that's another thing I've been trying to do is try to break up this big solid area. Of course, lines, decals and things help with that. But what I'm thinking about is doing something a little fancy, like there's some extra tough areas in it or something like that. I don't know, all cosmetics. So, say we start like about here. Well, 2 bucks, yeah, how about here? There, okay. And just kind of make another line. Can't really say what that is, just, I don't know, something to add more to look at. Alright, let's get some decals over this too. Normally I don't do decals with symmetry on because a lot of them reverse on the other side, but it's still going to be a time saver, less to fix. But I want to do something on the inside as well. Again, for looks. Maybe try to divide this up into 2. 2, 3, 4. Okay, let's try that. Alright, go fix up all the problems now. Alright, now, color for the landing deck. I think I'm going to try to go with this mid-tone gray. And how about more of that here? And what about regular gray for the landing pad? Alright. And what more could we do with decals? A little couple dots on these edges maybe. Alright. So now the block or the textures on the side, can we make this look a little better? Maybe like line this part, looks like it connects to these lights on the sides. Except I can't do that at the end. And to offset that even more, maybe add in a couple texture lights here. I don't want to do every one because I think that might be overdoing it. Maybe? Hard to say. Alright, so another thing I want to do is get these areas textured underneath the guns. So I'm just going to remove them for now. And that is the gun center place. So I think I'm going to do that so it kind of looks like it all like is a support. And then maybe hop in something on the sides I can. But this side I can't, obviously, because it runs off. And color these areas darker as well. Oh, excuse me. That's gonna be problematic though. This side is not gonna work because it's gonna, that color is gonna go over the edge. Unless I run with that and try something like this. Maybe. I don't know. Probably overdoing it a little bit. We'll see. It's all final tweak time on that stuff. Alright. So back to the front. I have thought about attempting to add some more glass to the front, and probably the old school glass. Armored windows versus non-armored windows. Yeah, this is the front of the ship. I know it's a starter CV, but just feel really bad if I put regular glass. Oops. It does open it up a little bit more. Quite a bit more. Question is, does it look good or not, though? I don't know. So this little area in the front here, too, I'm not really liking that a whole ton. See if I can find something better. There's some new blocks, too, and maybe I'll investigate these a bit here. This would be a good spot. Oh, and that's a terrible transition right there, too. But I don't believe there's any block that would work with that. I'm going to try something anyway. How about this? Huh, that's better. Okay. Now these textures are really weird. It's like taking the entire texture and squashing it rather than just using the part of the texture like all the other ones do. Um, Now, granted, it's pros and cons of that. One, it could kind of make things look different with existing textures because of the size, but overall, it is not a good way to do things in the game. So, and you shouldn't try to ever do that. So I'm thinking about breaking it up a little bit here and using this weird venting texture instead. Oh, actually, no, I got that backwards. Huh. Okay. Now back to this top part. I'm gonna have to ask a question too in the comments, yeah or nay on this the glass on the ceiling here. Doesn't need it. Um, Might make the interior look a little spiffier up there, but don't know if it should be there or not. It's I guess just a style decision. Just curious what people think. Okay, so behind the glass for now, I want to do something here too. Or multiple things maybe. Or maybe they shouldn't jag up on the front here. Also in the comments too, yeah, someone brought up the fact that I was going to God mode every time using the console command. Yeah, that's just an old habit. I do know that the G key will take you into God mode. I just never think about it when I'm doing it. So used to doing it the other way. I probably should have never learned that way in the first place, but oh well. I'm trying to improve on that. Can't really do glass on the bottom, not enough room there. So, yeah, I'll see. And I like these straight lines like that. I just don't like them angled that way. I like them kind of like going with the flow. So I'm going to just turn those and hope they stay. Here I'm thinking about just doing kind of a breakup in the color. And just, well, here, let's texture these with something too. And just do these dark. Alright. Not really much of texture in these areas. God, I still want to do something with these curves, but man, that just does not look good. What kind of piece of metal have you seen in real life that looks like that? With the never mind. Never mind. Okay. That kind of looks all right. This area is still boring. Yeah, on one of the earlier videos too, did have like a little lip line here, but I got rid of that because the thruster got right next to it. I keep on thinking on what I want to do with that, and I might look at a different answer and get into these decoration blocks, these new ones, and find something in there that could work. Something along the lines of this. Not sure what big handlebars would be out there for. Maybe if you know you got a SV stuck in the ditch, you could hook up a winch and pull it out. I don't know. But yeah, better than nothing being there. Maybe put in a second item. Oh, is that new? Yeah, that is new. I didn't used to have a small one of these. We had the small one here. So if that's new, is there anything else new? It doesn't look like it. Okay. And the bottom here. lights. And let's go. Oh, no, actually not lights there. Let's do that. How about something more bold there, right at the bottom of the ship. And okay. So we're going to make this caution. It actually fits pretty good, being where it's at. So I'm going to darken it up to start with. And get a decal. Okay, hangar door should be the same color as the body. This top lip, it needs some black up here, so I'm thinking this end area is going to be that way. I can dress up this just a little bit more first. I'm not liking how these are fitting over here either. I don't really like them over the edge of the thruster and over the edge over here. So I think it's time to change this area so it can get a little bit more space here somehow. It does take into the inside of the ship a little bit, but not too bad, and not in a usable spot anyway. So let's see, we did have a turret here. So that's better, but this top area here, kind of want to preserve the body line if I could. I think it will work too. If this went over, then again, it might also look like it's kind of interfering with the gun. Try it out at least. I don't know. I think that might work. Yeah, nothing wrong with that, I think. Okay, so that covers the rear mounts. Maybe it's the position of these guns. I'm not sure this black line's going to stay there or not, but I'm thinking they would look better if they were centered. One block in. They could actually be right up front here too. So let's say that's the new center spot. And whoops. Oops. Should the line stay or go? I don't know. All right. Oh, excuse me. Man, it's some stuff out in the air right now. Huh. Not sure how that happened. Why do I have that block there? Is that on both sides? Is there any reason for that? As far as I know. Huh. Alright. So the last area here. God, I wish there was something I could do with those. And what color should this whole thing be, too? Now that doesn't look too bad on the front. I bet you there's nothing I can put on these. Well, something's just not quite jiving with me with the colors yet. Trying to figure out a solution. Ooh, look at that. That's nasty too. Yeah, I think we're gonna scrap this. Looked at enough now. Just not looking good with those lines, I think. But just try something else real quick here. What if it that way? That's a lot of dark though. And of course that would have to line up to all this. I don't know. I think the whole top of this ought to be dark. That's just too much. Yeah, I don't know. Might have overdone that. Well, anyway, it is getting better. It's just, it needs a lot of tweaking yet. And I think well, symmetry's still not on, so I forgot to put back on again. I'm going to fix up a few of these little liney things. Yeah, I think that the top's just too dark now. Huh. Well, that sucks. I always like to try things though and see, look at it for a few minutes, see if it grows on you or if you just still find an issue with it. In this case, issue. It's just I want to try to do something with these lines here. And maybe that's a little better. Um, Maybe pull that back like that. Couple accents. Maybe too much. Hey. Oh, that's these angled things. Yeah, these guys don't like the texture very well at all. There is a way to rotate these 45 or this particular block certain direction to make a pattern. Um, Pretty rough actually to get them lined up that way. It's just experimenting. And nope. Okay, so now another thing I do, I've got these off-whites here. Um, so some of these vents and things I'm going to hit with a slightly different tone to darken them up just a little bit. Oh, come on. I thought that was fixed. well, not totally dialed in or anything yet, but it is mostly textured. Call this like the first run. Here and there throughout the rest of the build, I'll just keep on looking at things and see if there's something else that sticks out that could improve somehow on the body. Either block changes, texture fixes, whatever it might be. And other than that, I think that covers most of that, except for the bottom. I might do the bottom just off, not actually record that. I know I said I was trying to record everything with this, but some of the stuff just gets so monotonous and boring to watch. I wouldn't want to watch it. I just want to get it done with. But still really want to find some way to enhance the front of this ship. Try something, angle it different, something. It's alright, it's such a simple design ship that there's not a whole heck of a lot you could do with that, but, if there's anything anybody thinks of, that would be awesome. Alright, well, I think I'll wrap up this tutorial for the day. Quick final look at the ship. Okay, so just checking on all the different things. First, we're at 115. So, God, this is going to be cutting it close again. The interior doesn't have any lights. It doesn't have any storage. It doesn't have all the parts in it yet. So that's not leaving a lot of room before it hits size class 2 again. Typically where I fail. And this one I think is a lower block count and stuff than the other ships, other starter vessels I've tried. CPU, very low. Technically, I think this thing could probably have 2 320K storage bins in it, but I think I'm only going to put in one and some cargo boxes instead. Lift-wise, we're looking pretty good at 60. That should get off the ground. Probably carrying one 320K storage bin full, I believe. And the rest of the speeds are pretty good. I don't know what these numbers mean again. Now this did have 6 RCS now, so last time it had 3. Just want to take it out for just a quick spin and see how it feels. Yeah, much better, much better. So it's not, as responsive as a fighter or anything, but it's not bad at all. Moving around. Also taking a look at power. I think we already tested that before too, so it's at 65% top. And not bad at all. Let's see if it lands okay. Yeah, this game is really picky on landing. My goodness. The thrusters are still kicking in, even though I know I'm on the ground and whatnot. But sometimes it finds a spot where it's okay. But now it doesn't want to turn off. Okay, now it did. So weird, so weird. That's why I continually put in. Oops, darn it. Well, now it's active again. That's why I always like to put in those thruster RCS switches, because these things, CVs and other ships, just have a huge hard time landing where it like registers that they're actually landed. And you would think once the landing gear are all down, like you see all the landing gear firmly hitting the ground here. I don't see anything that would obstruct that. Why don't the thrusters shut off? Because right now it's using full power. So that is one of the reasons why I really like to put in those thruster RCS switches in all these builds. So you can, if you're flying this thing, get out of your cockpit, hit a switch right near you, and you shut that down so you don't waste all your fuel for no particular reason at all. And I do hope they take a look at why it's so picky on landing too, because I can't figure it out. I've been making, not this ship, but some of the newer ships, I have a 2-block ground clearance, and it doesn't really make a difference. It still has the same behavior. I've tried ships that only have 1 front landing gear and like 2 in the back. Doesn't seem to make a difference either. So it kind of bugs me. I just wish it would. I don't know what the deal is. Maybe it's just not considered perfectly level or something. But yeah, whatever I'm doing right now, I just cannot seem to get this thing to park. But I got it to park one time. All right. Well, anyway, you all have a good day, and hope you enjoyed this video. And next, there'll be at least one more part on this, and that'll be diving into the interior next. All right. Have a good day, all. Thanks.